Why did John Deacon, Queen's brilliant but reclusive bassist, choose to vanish from the public eye? What could drive someone who was so instrumental to the success of one of rock's greatest bands to turn his back on the limelight? This is not just a story about leaving the stage. It's about the complex interplay of grief, friendship, and the search for peace in a world that doesn't easily grant it. To truly understand John Deacon's departure, we have to look beyond the spotlight and into the intricate layers of his quiet genius. As Queen's bassist and the mastermind behind some of their most iconic tracks, Deacon was far from a mere background player. His bass lines didn't just support the band's music, they propelled it into the hearts of millions. Imagine for a moment the pulsating rhythm of "Another One Bites the Dust." That unforgettable groove? It's a product of John's innovative spirit and an example of how his creativity pushed Queen beyond the confines of conventional rock into new auditory territories. His songs weren't just hits, they were milestones that marked Queen's identity. Yet, in a twist of fate, the same man who helped define Queen's sound for a generation chose silence over sound. John Deacon's disappearance from the music scene was not a gradual retreat. It was an abrupt cessation, akin to a silence that screamed louder than any of their concerts. The question was, and continues to be, why? Many factors played into this most enigmatic exit, but the core of it lies in a profound personal loss. The passing of Freddie Mercury in 1991 wasn't just the death of a bandmate for Deacon. It was the shattering of something sacred, something irreplaceable. Freddie was not just a frontman, he was often the very heartbeat of the group. And in his wake, what was left for Deacon was an insurmountable void, one filled with echoes of past grandeur that could never be adequately recreated. At first, Deacon seemed to hold himself together. The 1992 Freddie Mercury tribute concert was more than a mere performance. It was a cathartic goodbye, a public farewell to both a friend and an era. Deacon stood on that stage amidst a sea of music legends, backing icons like Elton John and David Bowie. It was emotional, it was historic, but it was not the beginning of a new chapter for Deacon. It was a quiet, heartfelt farewell, an offering of respect in the only way he knew how. If we trace the steps post-tribute, we find ourselves on a rapidly narrowing path that defined Deacon's retreat from music. The finality of this path became glaring during the recording of the Made in Heaven album. As Queen crafted songs around Mercury's last recorded vocals, the process wasn't just challenging, it was hauntingly final. For Deacon, each session was less about creation and more about preservation. He was not building a future, but encasing cherished memories from the past. When the song No One But You, Only the Good Die Young was released in 1997, it served as Deacon's swan song. Not another milestone to add to his illustrious career, but a poignant closure to it. After this, Deacon retreated into a silence so profound that it reverberated across the music world, a resounding question mark lingering over Queen's ongoing legacy. John Deacon's retreat wasn't an explosive exit filled with drama or fanfare. Instead, it was a calculated step into obscurity, a conscious choice to safeguard his peace over continued fame. He decided against interviews, turned down any opportunity to step back into the limelight, and gracefully declined involvement in Queen's future endeavors, no matter how grand. His decision wasn't driven by acrimony. It was a gesture rooted in reverence for what Queen had represented before Freddie's passing. For many, Deacon's departure was steeped in mystery. Was it born of a personal conviction? A philosophical stance against the machine that the music industry often becomes? Perhaps. Or maybe it was simply too painful for him to face a world where Freddie's vibrancy was noticeably absent. It's a question fans continue to ponder as they listen to Queen's timeless tracks, each one a testament to Deacon's discreet but profound influence. In conversations with his former bandmates, a picture of Deacon begins to form, one painted with respect, nostalgia, and a touch of sorrow. Brian May and Roger Taylor have spoken fondly of their hopes for Deacon's return, but they also understand why it remained unfulfilled. As Taylor once remarked, Deacon was like a hermit, fragile in the face of the pressures associated with carrying a legacy so monumental. But couldn't such sensitivity also be his greatest strength? For it meant that Deacon approached his music and his friendships with an authenticity that stayed true to the core of what Queen represented. As we explore Deacon's life after the limelight, we find a man deeply committed to personal values over public adoration. While the roaring crowds became whispers in the distance, Deacon found solace in a quieter existence, devoting himself to his family. His family life, away from the chaos of stardom, thrived in the shadows, unaffected by the pressures that often unravel those in the public eye. It's a narrative just as compelling as any melody, an iconic artist choosing the rhythms of everyday life over concert tours. Even though Deacon stepped away from the stage, his influence on Queen's financial decisions persisted. His mind, sharp as ever, continued to navigate the business intricacies that keep Queen's legacy thriving. Contrary to the fallacies often associated with artists who step back from the limelight, Deacon remained an integral part of the band's success story, just behind the scenes where he felt he belonged. Now, amidst the growing legacy of Queen's continued performances with new voices at the helm, Deacon's absence is noticeable. It speaks volumes when fans, both old and new, inquire about his whereabouts. His silence has become an intriguing dialogue of its own, without a single word ever being spoken. Through it all, his legacy endures, because the music he helped create continues to inspire, to move, and to unite. So let's contemplate, was John Deacon's decision to step away from it all the ultimate act of loyalty? An unspoken promise kept to what was, rather than what might have been? Or does his absence leave a lasting void in the world of music that no tribute act can fully fill? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and share the John Deacon-penned Queen song that resonates most deeply with you. Was it the anthemic "I Want to Break Free," or perhaps the heartfelt warmth of "You're My Best Friend"? Let's celebrate the art, the legacy, and the choice that continues to define one of rock's most enigmatic figures. And if this exploration of John Deacon's journey has captivated you, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the notification bell. Stay tuned for more deep dives into the stories behind the music, the legends who crafted them, and the tales that often remain untold. Thank you for joining us in uncovering these intricate stories that deserve to be shared. Wherever John Deacon is, one thing is certain: his spirit and his music are far from forgotten. To truly unravel the mystery of John Deacon's withdrawal from the public sphere, one must delve into the essence of his journey with Queen. A band that wasn't merely a musical endeavor, but a monumental partnership. A shared vision. A synchronous rhythm. John Deacon wasn't just the bassist. He was the silent sculptor of Queen's distinctive sound, the craftsman behind some of the melodies that have stood the test of time. His departure from the limelight wasn't a rash decision, but a precisely orchestrated farewell to preserve the sacredness of what once was. Consider the momentous thump of "Another One Bites the Dust," the undeniable groove that captivated not just a generation, but cemented Queen's entrance into diverse musical territories. This wasn't just a fluke of musical genius, it was Deacon's keen ear, daring to merge rock with funk, daring to blend genres in a way that hadn't been fully embraced by the rock world at the time. This song, among others, opened new dimensions for Queen. It revealed how his unassuming presence hid an adventurous spirit, one that quietly defied expectations while helping the band evolve. Yet, as groundbreaking as his contributions were, they also underscored his decision to step back after Freddie Mercury's death. Deacon's choice to vanish from the public eye wasn't just about the loss of a bandmate. It was about the profound, unspoken understanding that Queen, in its truest form, couldn't exist without Mercury. Freddie was a force of nature, charismatic, larger than life, and his absence left a void too vast for Deacon to overlook. To Deacon, the band had been an inseparable quartet, a symphony that required all its original notes to create its renowned harmony. In the absence of one, the symphony was incomplete. In the aftermath of Freddie's passing, Deacon's grief was palpable, though never publicly displayed. While many artists would have rushed to capture the spotlight with emotional tributes or new ventures, Deacon chose a different path, one of introspection and solitude. The Freddie Mercury tribute concert, a monumental gathering of musical legends, was a poignant moment of public mourning and respect. Yet for Deacon, it was not an initiation into a new phase, but an eloquent closure. His presence there was not a sign of his readiness to continue Queen without Mercury, but rather a dignified farewell to the era and essence that had defined his musical life. As the years progressed and the music industry continued to evolve and transform, Deacon's retreat seemed at once an enigma and a touchstone of integrity. It posed questions about the price of fame and the nature of artistic partnerships. Why would someone with John Deacon's talent and legacy choose silence? The answer, perhaps, lies in his deep-rooted respect for the history he was part of, and an unswerving belief in the sanctity of the original ensemble. For Deacon, Queen represented a period of artistic and personal fulfillment that was indelibly tied to Freddie Mercury's presence. To continue without him would have been to rewrite a story already perfectly told, and for Deacon, this was not an option. He understood that keeping the memory alive sometimes means letting it rest, that true music sometimes lingers not in the cacophony of an encore, but in the profound silence once the final note has played. Meanwhile, the music world speculated on Deacon's prolonged absence. Was it due to unresolved tensions within the band, financial disagreements, or simply the overwhelming grief that came with outliving a time that was both too beautiful and too fleeting? As each theory floated through the media, Deacon remained distant, imperturbable, a quiet witness to Queen's continued evolution in his absence. His silence spoke volumes more than any official statement ever could. It was a testament to his philosophy that not every legacy needs a continuation, that some, in fact, are defined by where they end. John Deacon's post-Queen life, though shrouded in mystery, is also a narrative of choosing personal values over public demands. He's lived a life on his own terms, nestled in the ordinary joys and challenges of family life far removed from the dizzying heights of rock stardom. Amid the whir and whirl of Queen's ongoing legacy with new frontmen, Deacon's absence has taken on its own form of presence, one that addresses the heart as much as the mind. His financial acumen ensured that even in reticence, his contributions to Queen's fiscal health remain. The royalties and credits that continue to flow from his compositions secure his legacy beyond the spotlight. Unlike many musicians who leverage fortune for further fame, Deacon ensured his influence was measured not in news headlines or sold-out arenas, but in the lasting impact of his melodies, which continue to echo through the years, a refrain as vital as it is timeless. In many ways, Deacon's decision reflects a profound loyalty to the authentic experience of art and artist, an acknowledgement that sometimes the most resonant music comes from silence, that sometimes the truest exit is the one devoid of spectacle. As Brian May and Roger Taylor carry Queen's torch into new musical realms with Adam Lambert, they know, as do the fans, that Deacon's voice, though silent, continues to guide, to remind, to inspire. Where does this leave us when we consider John Deacon's choice to step back? Perhaps in wonder, perhaps in admiration of the rare artist who walked away not because he couldn't adapt, but because he chose to protect the purity of what had been. John Deacon understood the theater of rock, played his part, and then understood when it was his time to leave the stage. It's a testament to the power of knowing when your story has been told, leaving audiences forever pondering, forever speculating, and forever grateful for what he left behind. So what do you think? Was John Deacon's decision to retreat the ultimate gesture of loyalty, or did it deprive Queen fans of what could have been even greater masterpieces? Share your thoughts below and let us know which of Deacon's compositions resonates with you most deeply. If you've appreciated this deep dive into the mind and music of John Deacon, hit that like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Stay tuned as we explore more untold stories and delve into the legacies of music's most fascinating figures. Thank you for being part of this journey. Wherever John Deacon is, may he find the peace and fulfillment that his music has given us all. In the fabric of rock history, where legends are woven with both spotlight and shadows, John Deacon occupies a uniquely enigmatic space. His choice to withdraw from the public sphere wasn't just a personal decision, but resonated as a profound statement on what art truly means. Imagine being part of an institution like Queen. Every chord you strike, every note you play, reverberates across continents, shaping cultural landscapes, inspiring generations. Yet, Deacon, the man behind many of these seismic shifts, chose silence over spectacle. It's a silence filled with nothing but respect for what once was, a tribute to the integrity of the art form he cherished. His departure was akin to a master musician finding perfect closure in the final rest of a symphony. Not a mere pause, but an ending where everything has been profoundly expressed. John Deacon was integral to Queen, crafting hits that weren't mere songs but anthems of an era, each one echoing elements of his own persona. In tracks like Another One Bites the Dust and I Want to Break Free, he strayed beyond the usual confines of rock, forging paths into pop, funk, and beyond. Yet, as influential as these songs were, they also painted a picture of a man whose creative instincts defied boundaries, a man who went against the grain but did so with such finesse and subtlety that it seemed almost effortless. But when Freddie Mercury passed, a larger-than-life figure who captured the world with his charisma and vocal prowess, Deacon felt an irreplaceable absence. For Deacon, Queen was a singular entity, 4 individuals, each contributing their unique essence to a collective phenomenon. The death of Mercury wasn't just the departure of a friend, it was the dissolution of a formula that could never be replicated. With Freddie's passing, something broke within John. It was not merely grief, it was a visceral realization that what they once had was complete. The very spirit that fueled their music was now a whisper in the void, and no amount of retrospection or revival could fill that silence. The world watched as the remaining members of Queen attempted to navigate its identity without Mercury, ushering in new talents, performing to throngs of admirers while keeping the legacy alive. Yet every performance invoked the same question: where is John Deacon? His absence became a haunting refrain, echoing across the amphitheaters of rock history. His silence was louder than any note, a testament not of withdrawal due to anger or discontent, but an act of loyalty to the bond that once was, to the memories he chose to preserve untouched by the hands of time. Throughout the years, as the music industry marched forward, ever evolving with trends, the mystery surrounding Deacon's absence only deepened. Was it an act of protest? A refusal to commercialize what was once pure? Or was it an acknowledgement that music had said everything that needed to be said? For those closest to him, Deacon's approach was consistent with the integrity he'd always displayed, a clear, unwavering dedication to the sanctity of their original formation. To continue without Freddie would be to shatter the illusion, to disrupt the narrative that was so beautifully composed. And for Deacon, that narrative was sacred. Instead of riding the tide of fame, Deacon dedicated himself to the life outside the spotlight. His days, now far removed from the stardom and pandemonium of his Queen years, are those of a family man, living quietly but content. In being true to his own path, he ensured the heart of Queen's story remained intact, a timeless sentiment woven through rhythms and lyrics in which fans still find solace and joy. The royalties from his compositions continue to swell, yet John remains untouched by the temptation to exploit his former glories, reinforcing that true greatness sometimes steps back rather than stepping up. No one can deny the magnetic force of Queen's symphonic rock anthems, their dynamic stage performances, their groundbreaking albums. But after Freddie, there was no next chapter for John that he could see himself a part of without feeling he'd compromised the purity of what had been. His exit was neither a curtain call nor a swan song. It was an act of choosing peace over persistent echoes. It was about letting the music breathe on its own, to continue resonating long after its creators had played their part. The decision by Brian May and Roger Taylor to carry Queen's legacy forward with new collaborators such as Adam Lambert has been seen by many as a rebirth. For fans for whom Queen's music provided a soundtrack to life, it's a chance to connect with tunes that resonate like anthems of youth. Yet John's absence forms a striking contrast. His quiet withdrawal is a reminder of an era, a testament to something unfathomably deep, an acknowledgement not only of what was but the courage to recognize when it's time to bow out. Where does this leave us when considering John Deacon's remarkable choice? Perhaps it leaves us in awe of an artist whose ultimate act of creation was knowing when to let the echoes of his work speak for themselves. Seeing the narrative of Queen as complete, he ensured his legacy was not one of unfinished symphonies, but of masterpieces that remain eternally whole. It's a story not just told in song, but in the spaces between them, in the pauses that invite listeners to reflect on what truly defines an artist, not merely what he contributes while present, but what he leaves behind in his wake. So, as we ponder the rarity and weight of John Deacon's decision to retreat, we ask you, was it the most profound gesture of loyalty to a lost friend and a legacy? Or a missed opportunity for new wonders that might have surfaced had he stayed? Share your thoughts with us below. Which of Deacon's compositions ties closest to your heart? If you've been moved by this exploration into John Deacon's legacy, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that venture beyond the limelight of fame, and tap the notification bell to stay updated with our journey into the musical chronicles that remain unsung but deeply significant. Thank you for joining us on this path. Here's to hoping that wherever John Deacon may be, his choice brings him the same peace and reflection his music has given us. As we delve into the core of John Deacon's choice to step away from the public eye, we find ourselves grappling with an artist for whom the boundaries of performance and legacy transcend mere stage presence. In a world teeming with artists constantly striving to remain in the headlights of relevance, Deacon's decision to forego a continuous public identity seems almost revolutionary, his silence speaking volumes about the human spirit and the profound, often unspoken dialogue between artists and their creations. This trajectory, though outwardly quiet, is one of immense inner resonance. It's the silence of a carefully chosen note, held at just the right moment, where the absence of sound becomes the loudest voice in the room. It is a voice that conveys a level of artistic integrity rarely seen, a conscious decision to let the music crafted years ago continue to reverberate through time without the need for rehashing or alterations. In this way, Deacon's legacy, though seated in quiet, perhaps roars louder than any encore under spotlight could ever achieve. Imagine the emotional conflict of living in the massive shadow of hits that still pulsate across radio waves, still adorns playlists, and continuously finds new life in the hearts of young listeners exploring music's extensive history. For Deacon, these songs are both past achievements and current realities, echoing global consensus about Queen's unparalleled impact. Yet, with every acclaim and reverence for their art, comes an unescapable undercurrent of everything that once was. The brotherhood, the camaraderie, and the inexplicable synergy that couldn't survive the passing of such a crucial member as Freddie Mercury. And for Deacon, perhaps it isn't merely about preserving memories or protecting a legacy. It's a matter of sincerity, of personal alignment with what feels authentic and meaningful. We must consider how deeply personal and intimate the world that Queen encapsulated was for Deacon, a realm where his bass lines weren't just foundational to their music. They were threads of personal history interwoven with laughter, creativity, and melancholic moments shared with bandmates who weren't just colleagues, but brothers in every sense that mattered. Against this backdrop, John Deacon's detachment from Queen's ongoing journey can be perceived as an act of preserving what could no longer be replicated authentically. In the void left by Mercury's vibrant presence, Deacon recognized an end that called for genuine resolution rather than a forced continuation, a decision undoubtedly steeped in more complexity than could ever fully be deciphered from the outside looking in. In stepping back, he not only protected his own narrative, but allowed the music to draw its own contours, without the forced hand of nostalgia overshadowing what naturally concluded. For Deacon, this retreat was not about fading into obscurity or abandoning a life of music. It was an acknowledgement, a deeply reflective recognition of the incalculable value of what Queen was, and the understanding that their collective magic was bound to a bygone era. The question of what might have been becomes secondary to the palpable truth of what was, and still is, in the music that continues to captivate audiences worldwide. His decision was perhaps the ultimate tribute to their shared history. Furthermore, as John Deacon chose a different path, he highlighted an often overlooked narrative in the music industry. It's okay to let go. It's okay to accept an ending, to acknowledge that sometimes the greatest loyalty to the past is to let it stand in its full glory, unmarred by attempts to recapture an energy tied to people we can no longer stand beside. Deacon's retreat speaks to the profound yet understated courage required to honor one's own boundaries, not out of closure and finality, but as a testament to a legacy that lives on through vibrations of countless speakers around the world. There's a depth of humility in recognizing when the act of creation is complete, in stepping away not because the world demands more, but because you've offered your best, your truest expression. In Deacon's narrative, we find a unique emblem, an emblem of an artist who knew that his opus was not simply in the albums recorded or the concerts performed, but in knowing when every note had told their story, when the song had truly ended. For every Queen fan yearning for a glimpse of the complete lineup once more, Deacon's absence remains a poignant homage to a time when their music wasn't simply performed, but existed through an ensemble that harmonized with the authenticity and ephemeral beauty that moments are uniquely privileged to behold. His detached presence is a reverberating echo through the halls of every performance venue, a reminder of the true shape Queen once took, and the sentiments they chose to immortalize in music rather than in endless continuations. John Deacon's legacy thus becomes one not just of musical excellence, but of unparalleled wisdom in knowing the power embedded in the pause, the finality within the refrain. Through his absence, he allows the melody to stand, unabated, resonating with those who still find refuge in its comforting embrace. Through each receptive listener, the melody lives on, and in them, John's influence resonates briskly, alive in the same beats that refuse to gather dust, testaments to an era where the music not only met the moment but transcended it. To you, the devoted viewer, the listener of untold harmonies, and the seeker of stories beyond the limelight, we invite you to ponder. Was John Deacon's decision to walk away at the band's pinnacle an act of utmost fidelity to the legacy they crafted? Or was it a decision that left echoes where new harmonies might have been etched? We'd love to hear your reflections on what this enigmatic artist's departure has meant to you. Which of Deacon's resonant creations lives in tandem with your own life soundtrack? Join the conversation below and don't forget to give this exploration a thumbs up if it resonated with you. Subscribe for more insights into the storied paths of music's legends and untuned arcs. Hit the bell icon to remain embroiled in the narratives that defy convention, where the unsung melodies hum resolute in their enduring significance. Thank you for journeying with us through these silent chords of legacy. And wherever John Deacon might be, may the ripples of his music and his choice offer peace, just as they continue to bestow upon us a measure of reflection.